Michigan State tried to make the experience sour for North Carolina on Saturday, but the Tar Heels showed just how much chemistry they have. Oh, how sweet it is.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Monday, March 25th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and you've joined us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch. Big shout out to all you everydayers out there. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Do you ever wonder what adventures are waiting around the next corner? Well, why don't you take the Nissan Rogue or Pathfinder or Armada and go find your next big adventure? Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. All right, gang, Carolina beats Michigan State 85-69, runs their record to 29-7, 6-0 all-time against Michigan State in the NCAA Tournament. Guess I didn't jinx us after all. Thank you. You're very welcome. Carolina makes their 31st official Sweet 16. That is the most all-time any program. We now know that we will be playing Alabama on Thursday night in the second game of the West Regional. More on that in a little bit, and obviously throughout the week. So here's what the show's going to be today. First off, I want to shout out our leaders in the March Madness Locked On Tar Heels bracket challenge. We have 3 tied right now, actually, as I record, although that's as Houston, Texas A&M, and San Diego State and Yale are still ongoing. Right now, those tied are Carolina Cracker Heart, Bowler 10,001, and Virginia Tar Heel fan. So congrats to all you guys for leading Tide coming out of the first weekend, 470 points in the 98.6th percentile. Crazy stuff. The difference it looks like it's going to be is that Bowler 10,001 has Houston and San Diego State winning these games, and the other two don't have San Diego State. So probably Bowler 10,001 goes into the Sweet 16 all alone first place. So great stuff there. All right. If you want more in the weeds, like here's some of the big time stats and player stuff from Saturday, make sure you check out our live postcast. That's where we do that. We'll obviously have another one on Thursday, even though it's going to be a late night. We'll have one as soon as Carolina, Alabama goes final. But today on the show, 4 corners recap, shady stat of the game, a bit of a look ahead to Alabama and the weekend whip round. But before we get to any of that, here's the biggest storyline from the game on Saturday. You're going to get down sometimes in basketball. That's just the game. Or sometimes you've got a lead and a team makes a run, cuts way into it. That's basketball. The question for me is not, can you not get down or can you not let a team make a run? But what tells me about you as a team is what happens when those things occur. Can you respond? Can you stem the tide and then make a run of your own? And oh boy, did the Tar Heels respond and take care of business. Now, critically, notice there that I did not say the Tar Heel responded, because this was not just about RJ Davis. This was an entire team effort to overcome Michigan State on Saturday afternoon. And that is the most important takeaway from this entire thing. If you stop the show right now, I hope you heard me say at least that today. Let's set the scene, though, for what Carolina did so well. They, frankly, were not playing tough enough. That had been a big talking point of mine all the last week leading up. Michigan State always plays tough, hard-nosed. That's Tom Izzo's teams. And Carolina was not meeting that. So then we get to this moment. Carolina is down 17-12. It's the under 12 timeout of the first half. They've just gone on a little 5-0 run to cut it to 17-12. Great stuff there. And we get that timeout. We come back, and it's that coach on the court interview with Allie LaForce. And Allie starts in, Coach, they were willing themselves into the paint. And before she can say any more, HD is ready. He jumps in. They're tougher. They're tougher. They're catching the ball right underneath the basket. Until we meet the fight, that's when things will turn around. That's a direct quote. I went back and made sure I had it exactly right. And Allie knew that was all she was getting. So she just said, this was my favorite part. She goes, "Thank you, get in the huddle," and shoved him off. And then you see kind of a bird's eye view. Hubert storms off to the huddle. Elber's athletic trainer, Doug Halverson, out of the way, moving all sorts of bodies, and gets into the huddle. Now, the funny thing is, a lot of people's storyline after this was that this was the moment of the turnaround. This is where the run started. And folks, that ain't it. That is not true. From that moment, after that timeout, Michigan State actually continued their run. They went on a run of 9-2 at that point. That's when it got up to a 26-14 lead, that 12-point lead, the biggest lead of the day for the Spartans. So, yes, Carolina eventually started doing it, but notice that it wasn't right away. They, again, went on a 9-2 run. As part of that, I thought Carolina was having some of the wrong shooters take shots. I thought they were taking not shots that they often would. It seemed like things were getting to them a little bit, and that allowed Michigan State to push out some. And I just thought, look, if Carolina just settles in and plays their game and trusts the process and each other, they'll be fine. And finally, that's what happened. They hadn't been tough enough, and they were, both mentally and physically. It's both of those. When we say tough, it's got to be both. It ain't just one or the other. So here's how it went down. Even after Michigan State went up 12, Carolina took another. Harrison took a turnaround, missed. Sparty has the ball, up 12 with the ball. And it's like, man, this could get out of hand in a hurry. But here's what happens. Elliot Cadeau is the one that started Carolina chipping back. Carolina's down 12, 14-26. Elliot gets that little mid-range jumper on the right block. And one, makes the free throw. Critical. Little 3-0 chunk to start it. It's now 17-26. Then Malik Hall gets a layup, 17-28. And it's like, shoot, thought maybe we'd have a run, but Michigan State scores. Oh, but then it was on at that point. Malik Hall scores. And then listen to this. Harrison Ingram 3, Armando Bacot 2 free throws, makes them both. Armando Bacot layup, another Harrison Ingram 3, another set of Armando 2 free throws. And at that point, that's now 29-28. Carolina takes it and has the lead at that point. What did you notice in that run? After Elliot Cadeau and Malik Hall's buckets, that was 12 straight points from Armando Bacot and Harrison Ingram. In all, it was a 15-2 run to take the lead, including Elliot Cadeau's 3 points. None of that. Did you hear me say anything about RJ Davis scoring in there? Not a single point in that run. I don't know if you had caught that or not. No RJ Davis. Now, obviously, he was a critical part of the run, but not in terms of putting the ball in the basket. That is balance. That is the team. But then there was more, because now after that run, after Carolina gets the lead, now RJ scores off the Paxson Wojcik assist. Remember that? Paxson missed that 3 in the corner, didn't hang his head, ran down, got a rebound, led the break, was savvy and veteran enough to know, instead of trying to get this layup in traffic, the ACC player of the year's over there in the corner, I should probably kick to him. RJ buries it, 32-28. Then Bacot has 2 more free throws, buries those. Now it's a 20-2 run. Carolina's up 34-28. Michigan State finally stops it, but it was just 1 of 2 from the free throw line. Then a Cormac 3, then a Jaden Akins jumper to cut into it, and then the Harrison Ingram 3 just before halftime. All told, Carolina, from being down 12, goes on a 26-5 run. Actually, it was 29-5 because Cormac scored the first 3 points of the second half. And that's it. That is Carolina that responding as a team, not one individual having to try to strong arm this thing and take over like in a Kemba Walker way. Like, Carolina didn't need that. They needed everyone to contribute to this thing. That's tough. That's winning basketball. That's Final Four worthy basketball. That's veterans not freaking out when they get down, but figuring out how to be tough up here and in here and with your heart. By the way, if you're listening, I pointed to my head and my heart. Because again, as I said, teams are going to make runs. You can't help that. That's basketball sometimes. But you can respond and Carolina did just that. And then don't miss that second half run too. Remember, Michigan State cut this thing all the way back down to 2, but then Carolina pushed back out. Michigan State pushes back again, gets it down to 4. And then Carolina, over the course of about 6 minutes, goes on a 19-6 run to push it from 4 out to 17. And that's ball game. Great stuff from a veteran team. I heard multiple national voices say that was the most impressive thing they saw on Saturday, more so than even Gonzaga's run against Kansas. So just hear all of that. So Carolina, you love to see it. Great response by the Tar Heels. Moving on to the Sweet 16, where you know that RJ Davis will always deliver. Armando Bacot will almost always deliver, as he's done this season. But the question is, who's number 3? That's been the big question lately, and it's been a revolving door, and I kind of like it. So we'll answer that question, plus the rest of the Four Corners recap and the shady stat of the game, all that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you that this week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that has stood out in the NCAA tournament, a team that's pushed it further than the rest. Just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys were able to take it to the next level. In round 1, it was the Oakland Golden Grizzlies delivering the biggest upset of the tournament, knocking off Kentucky. They are this week's Nissan Rogue. They absolutely surprised us with a powerful performance against those Wildcats, giving them their biggest win in program history. And now forever, we all know the name, Jack Golke. They say win life, go Rogue, and that's exactly what Oakland Golden Grizzlies have done. So take the Nissan Rogue, Pathfinder, or Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop nissanusa.com. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Four Corners recap and the shady stat of the game coming at you. First off, who's that third scorer on Saturday? We all know who it was because you watched the game, but let's talk about it. Harrison Ingram. Here's what I loved about the fact that it was Harrison Ingram as the dude in this game. I've compared him often this season to Draymond Green. And so I love that our own version of Draymond beat Draymond's alma mater. How fun is that, right? And came at a great time because Harrison Ingram had been pretty quiet of late by the standards that he's set for himself this year. It's not that he's been bad. It's just that he's only been solid rather than exceptional, if I can say it that way. Like the 4 games of the postseason before this one, Florida State, 9 points, 10 rebounds. Against Pittsburgh, 6 points, 6 rebounds. NC State, 10 points, 3 rebounds. And then against Wagner, 9 points and 5 rebounds. So it was like solid, but not what we've come to expect from him. And then on Saturday against Michigan State, Harrison Ingram turns in basically a copy-paste performance of what he did in the first Duke game of the season at home. 17 points, 7 rebounds, a steal, 6 of 11 from the field, 5 of 7 from 3, tying the number that he made against Duke. That's a career high 5. And the 2 that he missed, I thought looked good, honestly, and were good shots that I wanted him to take. And my favorite, though, was the 5th one that he made when it was like, woo, 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 the whirly bird, the tornado, the flush bowl, whatever you want to call it, and rolled all the way in, man. Harrison Ingram, critical part of what Carolina did. And they need him to continue showing up and delivering everything that he does. Some nights it's going to be scoring. Some nights it's going to be 19 rebounds. Some nights it's going to be playing a little bully ball and getting inside. It's just whatever is needed of him, his versatility can do it. Harrison Ingram, what a great performance being that number 3 scorer on this team. And I mentioned it on our live postcast, but I also just want to slide in. Don't miss that Cormac Ryan has been number 4 in both games of the NCAA tournament, 14 points and 13 points. Great stuff from Cormac. Number 2 in the Four Corners recap is North Carolina's scoring defense. Now, you know that defense has been so good and so solid all year long. You know, there was a little bit of a lull when Carolina went through that 5-game stretch where they lost 3 of 5, but they've, for the most part, regained it since then, holding Michigan State Saturday to 69 points. But have you checked the opposition's point totals this postseason, ACC tournament and NCAA tournament combined? Carolina's played 5 games. 4 of those opponents have been in the 60s. Florida State 67, Pittsburgh 65, NC State the outlier at 84, Wagner 62, and then Michigan State 69. Even if you factor in NC State, Carolina is holding their opponents this postseason to 69.4 points per game. That is fantastic to hear from Carolina's defense. In total this season, they've played 36 games and they've held their opponents to 70 or fewer points 22 times, a number only Taylor Swift could be proud of, right? That is so phenomenal by the Tar Heels. Let's do the quick math. I didn't see what that percentage is. 22 divided by 36. That's, no, I didn't get it. 22 divided by 36 is 61%. 61% of Carolina's games, they've held their opponents to 70 or fewer points. Great stuff. Speaking of defense, let's flip it to the offense. Why? Because not only has Carolina been holding down their opponents, but a big part of that is that they've not been coughing up the basketball outside, frankly, of the first half of the Wagner game. 4 straight games now, Carolina has had single-digit turnovers. Just 5. Only 5 turnovers against Michigan State. Only 2 in the first half, and then 3 in the second half, which ironically enough were all RJ Davis, who only had 1 turnover all postseason long before that game. That 5 ties a preseason low with Charleston Southern and the home game against Duke. And so, man, Carolina is doing a great job. And keep in mind, this is with a freshman point guard named Elliot Cadeau, who has done a really strong job all season at not being a stereotypical turnover-prone freshman guard. I mean, you know, like he was so frustrated with his performance against Wagner. 3 assists, 4 turnovers. This game, I know there's the whole conversation about the threes. We talked about that on the live postcast. But 4 assists, 0 turnovers against Michigan State. I need that Elliot Cadeau every game for 4 more games to wrap up the season. Let's get it. And, you know, hitting a couple shots here and there wouldn't be that bad either. Meanwhile, though, Michigan State had 11 turnovers. So Carolina capitalized and they led the points off of turnovers 16-7. So really, really, really good stuff from Carolina, taking care of the ball, not giving up possessions and not giving extra possessions to the other team. That's what you need to do. Number 4 in our Four Corners recap, rebounding. And you know that we've raved about Carolina's rebounding for the vast majority of the season. In the first 35 games, Carolina won the rebounding battle 31 times, had just done it 24 straight. Crazy, crazy good stuff there. But Michigan State out-rebounded the Tar Heels. So that means just the 5th time all season Carolina's been out-rebounded. It was 37-32 in Michigan State's favor. That also snaps the 24-game streak of leading the rebounding battle. But how about this? This was the biggest outlier of the whole thing to me. Carolina, which is not the same offensive rebounding prowess that they had in the Roy Williams era. That's just not as much of like Hubert Davis really wants to do that, but he doesn't put as much emphasis on it as the Tar Heels had in the Roy Williams era. But this is bonkers. First half of this game, zero offensive rebounds for Carolina. That is the first half all season long where Carolina has been kept off the offensive glass. How about that? I want to go back and look at the first 2 seasons of the Hubert Davis era to see if that's ever happened, because I wouldn't be shocked if that's the first half ever where Carolina has been kept off the offensive glass in the Hubert Davis era. I don't expect that to continue. I expect Carolina to get right back on it, and they weren't blown out on the glass. It was just -5, but still interesting that Carolina didn't win that rebounding battle. All right, shady stat of the game coming at you. I tweeted this on Sunday, but I hadn't necessarily realized this myself. I was just looking back through some of the numbers. As you know, I love stats, and so that's why we do the shady stat. Jalen Washington, 2 for 2 in this game against Michigan State, including that great tip dunk that he had. Set a screen out top for RJ Davis. RJ rolled straight to the basket for a layup. It came off the top, but Jay Wash wasn't hanging out at the three-point line. He followed RJ right on in. Boom, tip dunk. You love to see it. But speaking of that 2 for 2 in this game, have you looked at his season shooting percentages? Field goals. My man is 54 of 77. That is 70.1% for Jay Wash. And from 3, 8 of 15. That's 53.3% from 3. Now, I know both of those are not high volume, small sample size, just 77 field goal attempts, just 15 three-point attempts. But still, the man is shooting over 70% on the season and over 53% from 3. I don't care how small volume it is. You will take that. Now, would those numbers stay with more volume? I probably doubt it, right? But what a great thing that is to have the guy that's maybe your 7th or 8th most productive player doing this. Come on, Jay Wash, shady stat of the game, way to go. All right, gang, as I mentioned earlier, we now know the opponent for the Sweet 16 matchup, and we owe the Tide a little bit of revenge. We'll talk about that and the weekend whip around all coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you this episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, which has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Thankfully, LinkedIn isn't just some other job board. They've got a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, making it the best place to hire. It gives you access to those professionals that you can't find anywhere else and does all that while making the process really easy and intuitive for you. So this makes hiring really easy when you've got that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn Jobs knows that you as a small business are wearing a ton of hats and may not have time to do hiring well or put much resources into it. So they're constantly trying to find ways to make the process easier for you, like this new feature they have where they help you write job descriptions so you don't have to do it. So if you want to do that, post your job for free right now at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Again, that's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, gang. It's Alabama. It's North Carolina Thursday night. We'll preview the game later in the week, obviously. But my word, it is time for some revenge. On Thursday night, Clemson and Arizona, which will be the first game in the West Regional. How about that ACC, by the way? I know there's always I'm kind of the mind right now that I never want to cheer for Duke. I never want to cheer for NC State or frankly, even Clemson. But I'm pretty salty about how the nation treats our conference. And so, heck yeah, 4 teams in the Sweet 16. No other conference has that. Let's go. You know what I mean? I love that. So now, again, I don't ever want to cheer for those other teams, but you hear what I'm saying? I don't want my conference besmirched. We'll be the ones taking names. All right, ACC, let's go. Anyway, Clemson, Arizona will tip at 7:09 Eastern from LA. Carolina will be against Arizona will be 30 minutes after that conclusion. So probably in the 9:30 to 9:45 range, just depending on how many reviews there are and timeouts and how long it takes down the stretch. So we'll see, but it'll be on CBS. So we'll get ready for that. Now, here's the deal. I am still so salty about Carolina losing to them last year to Alabama. I thought Carolina didn't handle the overtimes very well, just didn't execute at end of overtime moments. And so I just want to see better results for Carolina. And I know Brandon Miller's not there anymore, but Mark Sears is an absolute dude. If you haven't seen him play, you probably watched the game on Sunday night. that was a knockdown, drag out fight. Those dudes were exhausted. I can't imagine what Coach Davis and the team was thinking as they're watching it. Like, is that what we're about to get into? Because if so, Carolina is going to have to take that toughness from Michigan State and go up even another level than they were on Saturday. But as you look at some of Alabama's personnel, in addition to Mark Sears, Grant Nelson, a little bit of a matchup nightmare. He's one of those transfers that I kind of looked at, hoping Carolina would maybe take some shots with him. He wound up at Alabama. Don't forget, they've got freshman Jaron Stevenson, who we thought would ultimately commit to Carolina for next year and reclassified, committed to Alabama. And so, and he plays for them. So we'll definitely see that. Love to shut him down. Anyway, that'll be a great game Thursday. As I said, we'll do a lot more previewing of that on, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. In real time, Alabama just hit a shot at the end of regulation to send it to overtime against Houston. Holy smokes. You probably already know this because you're seeing this later. Oh my goodness. That's so crazy that just happened. They had shots at it. 1 point something left on the, oh my goodness. All right. Overtime, Texas A&M Houston. That's wild. Okay. You're probably going just as crazy as I am right now. What a thing that just happened. Weekend whip around. Let's get to that. You already know probably what happened with the women's basketball team. Beat Michigan State on Friday, 59-56. Held on for dear life down the stretch. Carolina just kind of with those free throw shooting woes almost let Michigan State back into it. But the Tar Heels sweep Michigan State this weekend. But then, unfortunately, they had to follow that up playing South Carolina on Sunday. And that was just never probably going to be a big a winning proposition. So Carolina loses 41-88, unfortunately. Alyssa Usby was the only Tar Heel in double figures. She had 12. It's the end to a tough, injury-riddled season for the ladies. I mean, that's just kind of the truth of the matter. They finished 20-13 overall. And I just know it's not the season that I thought they would have, or probably any of you thought they would have. So I'm really bummed for them. But hopefully they can get back to the drawing board, get healthy, and get things ready for next season. Baseball and softball both played Georgia Tech this weekend. Baseball was at home. Softball was on the road down in Atlanta. Baseball, sweep. Friday, the dudes won 5-4. Saturday, 11-5. Sunday, 9-2. The Diamond Heels are now 21-4 on the season overall, 7-2 in ACC play. They're second in the Coastal behind Virginia Tech, who's 8-1. But I think those teams are kind of having better records than the other division right now. So Carolina's in a great spot. Softball won the series, took 2 out of 3, won Friday and Sunday. Friday 9-3, Sunday 7-2, and lost the middle game on Saturday 2-6. Both tennis teams were in action this weekend. The women had 2. Unfortunately, Friday they lost at NC State 3-4 again. And then Sunday they won at Wake Forest. Sweep. 4-0. They are now 14-3 overall, 7-1 in ACC play. Of those 3 losses, though, 2 of them are to NC State. One was the semifinals of the ITA indoors. Both of those losses were 3-4, so close. And then they lost after because they just didn't care to play Virginia in the consolation game. After that, got swept 4-0. So I don't even really count that. The ladies will be just fine. Just stay with them. Men won at Boston College on Sunday, 7-0. Another sweep. All these sweeps. Wrestling NCAA championships were this weekend in Kansas City. Lachlan McNeil made nationals, but had to pull out on Saturday with a medical forfeit. So finishes 6th in his 141 weight class, but is an All-American. Great stuff there. Lacrosse teams, women beat Louisville on Saturday, 18-12. Men, though, lost against High Point on Saturday, 11-12. That's tough. Really close there. Swimming, nationals have been going on in Athens, Georgia. Aranza Vazquez Montano repeats in both the 1 and 3 meter. So she is a 2-time national champ at both of those heights. And the Tar Heels as a team finished 17th out of 42. Fencing national championships were Sunday. Sophia Kovacs earned All-American, finishing 10th in the women's saber. 2nd year in a row for her to get All-American honor. So great stuff there. For the men, Eldon Wood finished 17th in the men's saber. So great stuff for them. Tar Heels finished 21st in the team standings. Gymnastics finished tied for 3rd in the ACC championships. All right. That's it. Great weekend wrap up. So another big week ahead. Obviously, we're going to spend a ton of time getting ready for Alabama and the trip out west for the Tar Heels. And, going to be great. Pat Kilby, Coach Bill Robinson, hopefully will be able to be back with us. Would love to get that. All 3 of us together. We'll see if we can make it happen this week. All right, gang, that's it for Monday's show. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community, come on, join us. Come for the Tar Heels, stay for the community. The link's in the show notes. It's free to join. If you haven't subscribed to our show on audio or YouTube, please do that now. On audio, just hit subscribe on whatever podcast thing you use. On YouTube, just hit, if you're watching it, just hit subscribe right now. Do it. That's great. And hit the bell notification so you know when I go live after the game on Thursday evening. Folks, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow, but until then, peace.